Hey guys, it's Indigo here. I wanted to make a video with the upcoming 3 vs 3 territory wars that's on the schedule and the fact that we've been doing a lot of 3v3 grand arenas. I figure people could use some help with their 3v3 comps. You know, the teams you're used to, like a Bosk Bounty Hunter team or a Crew First Order team, those teams are getting dialed in. Everybody pretty much knows how to counter those. They know what they need to use to get it down in one battle and not burn anything too overpowered. And so it's a struggle, even with good bounty hunters or good FO, trying to find a team that'll get you that all-important defensive hold. Even if it only gets one hold or two holds, it doesn't have to stop your opponent cold. As long as you can just get a hold and buy yourself some breathing room for when you go clear their side, you'll have room for a little bit of error. And that might be all the difference between you winning and you losing. So with that in mind, I figured I would show 11 defensive teams that you could use that should stop your opponent, at least get you a hold. So these are probably teams that you've seen maybe variants of, or maybe you haven't. Who knows? But I've been studying what my opponents put down and what some friends of mine with their opponents use. And so I've come up with this list, and hopefully it'll help you. I'll give you a little bit of kind of overview of what the lead is for the squad and why the squad, works how it works. Okay, the first team is going to be Embo Lead with Cad Bane and then Aura Singh. Now, don't mind my Aura. She's not all the way geared up yet. I'm working on her. But even at gear 10, which she's at now, she's much tankier than the other bounty hunters that I have left over, like Zam or Greedo or IG. So she will be a decent fit on this team. Let me tell you how it works. So Embo's lead will give bounty hunters a 50% counter chance and 50% health steal. And then also if they fulfill the contract, they'll get a bonus damage boost. But it's not important that that condition is met. It's the counter attacks that will get the job done. Because if nothing else, it's going to take health and protection off of your opponent so that they can't get a perfect 54 banners. What Embo provides is, on mine, he's got the Zeta, so he can't be critically hit. He does some pretty big damage if you have modded right with crit damage mods and then lots of protection because it's based off of his protection. He can also dispel buffs on his basic. And then you got Cad Bane, who he's set up for critical chance. You want him to crit as often as possible, and he can stun, he can dispel buffs. He's got 5% self-healing whenever he inflicts debuffs. He gains turn meter on critical hits, and he can attack multiple times. He's an all-around good character to have on this squad, and stuns are huge in 3 vs 3. If he can get a stun off, that's 1/3 of the enemy team that's not getting to do what they were meant to do. So he provides some great utility in this team. The reason Aura's in there, besides being left over, is that she's a bit tankier than the other bounty hunters, but also she can stealth if the contract goes off. It's part of her payout. And then she can also has a chance to stun on her basic, which is, again, huge. If she can stun and Cad can stun, you're keeping the enemy team under control. So that's awesome in 3 vs 3. And then she can also do pretty big damage. She gets a boost to offense, and she can kind of charge up her next attack with her moves. So she's a pretty good bounty hunter to have. I mean, if you can hide her with stealth and Embo can't be critically hit, already your enemy's at a disadvantage. So that's a decent team that your opponent is probably not familiar with and might be likely to underestimate, might get you a defensive hold. Let's go ahead and move on to the next team you see on the list. Number 2 is going to be Stormtrooper Han with Mission and Zalbar. It will work better if they both have the Zetas on Mission and Zalbar, because Zalbar's Zeta lets him recover a protection every turn, and he shares that with Mission. So right away, it's kind of double the bang for your buck. But they're still okay, even without it for now. I do have the Zeta on Mission so that she'll assist whenever Zalbar goes. What the lead provides from Stormtrooper Han is it gives 40% defense if they're above half health, or else it'll give 35% offense. You really want the defense bonus because Stormtrooper Han is a tank and Zalbar is a tank. Already they're going to be super stout, able to take a lot of damage. Mission is kind of squishy, so any help she can get defense-wise is a plus. Now, what Stormtrooper Han provides to this team besides his leader ability is he's got passives that will remove enemy turn meter, and then he'll also give turn meter to his team. Both when you activate his taunt, it gives 30% turn meter, and then every time he's damaged, it gives 20% turn meter to your team. So if you're feeding turn meter, that's more dots that Mission and Zalbar can lay down, or he can lay down armor shreds. It's all about turn meter manipulation and just general tankiness. Mission and Zalbar have a lot of synergy with each other, so that's why they work well together already, and just finding a spare lead that will provide some tankiness will go a long way. So your opponent might underestimate this team. It's going to take something with a high DPS to be able to take it out. Let's go on to number 3. The next team on my list is Jyn with C-3PO and Old Ben. What the lead gives to this team is they heal on a buff gain. They get a chance to expose every time a debuff is inflicted. So this is how it works. Jyn, she can, in addition to providing the leadership ability, she can revive her defeated rebel allies, and she can stun, and she can send turn meter to other allies. So that's what she provides. The main gear that makes this team work, though, aside from her lead, would be C-3PO. He spreads the translation buff like crazy, and he also inflicts a ton of debuffs with the Confuse. So he does that on his basic, he also does it on his special, and he also gives the ability for rebels to inflict debuffs on their basic. So there should be a ton of expose flying around. And the fact that he can stay under stealth will provide him a little bit of longevity because they can't target him. And then he will call assists where everyone's going to be using their basic, thereby having a chance to expose even more. Now, I don't know if you can get an expose on an expose with Jyn's leadership, but there should be plenty of debuffs and plenty of exposes, so that's what makes this team tick. Okay? Let's bring up the next set of teams here. You can see I have a General Grievous team with B2 and then HK. It's kind of a natural team to throw on defense these days because everybody just leveled up their General Grievous for the Padme event. So a lot of people have General Grievous with at least the unique Zeta at gear 11 or gear 12. They've got B2 geared up there around gear 11 or gear 12. Some have the Zeta on it. And then HK is just a leftover anyway. If you're running a Darth Revan team, chances are you have Darth Malak, and if you do, in 3v3, you're going to run Revan with Darkside Bastilla and Darth Malak. So your HK is just sitting on the bench. So he's kind of a natural fit to throw into this droid team. What the lead is, and I'm not sure yet whether Grievous lead would be better or whether it's worth putting under HK lead, but under Grievous lead, enemies have minus 40% crit avoidance and minus 50% defense. So that'll be able to help you as your droids can put down some big damage, especially HK. So what Grievous brings to the table besides his lead is he's got droid synergy, and he'll get the extra turns if you do have the Zeta on his unique. B2 will provide you with dispels, like an AoE dispel, and put up buff immunity. He also gains like his own turn meter and can reduce his own cooldowns. And he's generally pretty tanky if you have him modded right. So he's definitely a good droid to have on this team. And then HK, if you're throwing him on this team, chances are you already have him at gear 11 or gear 12. You've got him decently modded for damage, so he can do some big hits. He's left over from your Sith Empire team anyway, so he would be a natural good fit in this squad. Team number 5 is Savage Opress. I got the Zeta on him. Got Sith Marauder, and then Sith Trooper. The reason for this team, the lead ability, is if you have it maxed, Sith will gain 75% defense and 30% tenacity. That's going to make these characters already even more tanky than they already are. Savage is tanky to begin with, and he'll gain defensive buffs and turn meter every time he's damaged. You need something with a really high DPS to take him out, or some mechanic like Thrawn or Darth Nihilus, where you can just get rid of him or keep him at bay, because he does have the ability to quote unquote cleanse debuffs from allies, whereby he'll take them and give them to himself for a turn, and then he can also have them removed, cleanse the debuffs from himself if he gets critically hit. Sith Marauder does some good damage. If you mod him right, he can do some really big hits. He gains a lot of passive bonuses depending on what buffs are around and what debuffs are around. He also gives your team potency up, which can be huge in, different teams, not necessarily for this team. So he's an all-around pretty tanky, hard-hitting character. Definitely worth it on this squad. And then Sith Trooper, of course, is just a tank. Doesn't necessarily need to be fast or do good damage. He's just there to soak up hits. And the fact that he auto-taunts and can have defense up is a plus. It just makes him even more tanky. And you don't have to worry about your tank getting a taunt off because he'll auto-taunt by himself. So that's number 5. Okay, on to team number 6. The 6th team is Tarkin Lead with TIE Fighter Pilot and then Shore Trooper. The reason you would do this team is Tarkin Lead provides a plus 28 speed boost to Empire and they inflict defense down if they go under 100% health. And if you have the Zeta on his lead, then it will be 30 speed boost, and they'll also get exposed when they go under 100% health. Not everybody has that, but even if you don't have the Zeta, his lead is still pretty good. The way it works, this team doesn't necessarily get defensive holds more than it's designed to make your opponent burn a good team to try to outspeed it, or they're going to suffer from not getting the full protection or full health banners, because Tarkin has an AoE that will go ahead and reduce turn meter on everybody, and then TIE Fighter Pilot has his AoE that will also put down buff immunity, and he can put down ability block. And with all the debuffs going around on his basic, he can do bonus damage, I believe, for the number of debuffs. The more debuffs somebody is suffering, the harder he's going to hit. And then Shore is on there just because he's a tank. And not only is he a tank, with a pre-taunt, he heals. So if you're not using him, you really should be. He's got great synergy because he's Empire, so he fits under the lead and gets the bonus. But like I said, he's a pre-taunt, and he's going to heal. So that right there is good stuff for a defensive team. So that is number 6. Let's move on to the next set of teams. Team number 7 is Dengar Lead with Vandor Chewie and L3. What Dengar Lead brings to the table is enemies will have minus 50% critical damage. So it's going to be a lot harder for them to do big damage to your team. Dengar will be in stealth, and he can also keep enemies from stealthing, and he's naturally pretty tanky anyway. Vandor Chewie is a tank, and he'll revive himself and L3 if he's prepared. So that's what you want him there for, is if he can get that prepared, they're going to have to kill him over again or kill L3. It says he revives light side scoundrel allies, so unfortunately, not Dengar. But L3 is going to be your biggest one because she's always going to be taunting. She's an annoying tank that can taunt a lot. She'll gain extra defense, and she can cleanse debuffs off her allies. So she's a big pain to deal with, and they're going to have to get through her before they can take out, Vandor Chewie. They're going to have to neutralize her with fracture or something so that she won't taunt and keep taking the focus off of him. And with Dengar Lead, given that minus 50% critical damage, it's going to take a lot more to beat your team. Hopefully they'll even time out, and that's how you get your defensive hold on that team, is that they go so long that they just time out and can't beat it. And the next team is team number 8. That is Dakka Lead with Acolyte and then Night Sister Zombie. The reason that this team works, the lead that Dakka gives is Night Sisters have plus 50% health and also defense. So what Dakka brings to the table besides the lead is that she has stuns, and then she can revive the other Night Sisters. Acolyte, her big thing is that once she gets into stealth, she's really hard to kill because she will heal up fast. And the only way to get to her is AoE, or someone like Scion that has an AoE dispel that can do big damage to her. And then Zombie, you all know Zombie, is probably the most annoying tank in the game that is extremely difficult to kill off. And he can revive the other sisters twice. So that makes it an even harder team to kill off. So with the extra defense they get from Dakka and the extra health, they're just going to be that much stronger, and you'll have to do that much more damage to deal with them. So there's an NS team you can use. Let's move on to the next team. This is squad number 9, and I'm sure you guys have all seen this one before. Is GK Lead with a Zeta Barris and then 5s. The lead for this, the ability gives 30% max health and 70% defense to clones and Jedi. And they can assist. They all get called to group hug whenever it's a team heal ability, like what Xeris has. So GK, he's the tank. He's going to cleanse. He's going to give retribution. He's going to call assists. He also gains foresight. And he will auto-taunt whenever you crit on somebody else. And they'll get crit immunity. So that's kind of annoying because when you focus on, like, say, you want to get out Xeris, okay, you'll do that. But as soon as you crit on her, GK taunts, and now you got to focus on him till the taunt goes away. So you need somebody that can dispel or put up buff immunity or healing immunity. There's only a certain number of characters that you can use against this team, and I found out in the last Grand Arena, once you burn through all those characters, if you burn through them all, there's nothing you can do to get past that team. Even though they seem like such a simple team, if you don't have the right characters to beat them, there's no beating them. You're going to get stuck, and that's that. So GK will taunt on crits. Zaris, I already said you need the Zeta for her. She's pretty tanky after the lead bonuses that GK gives, but what makes her great is her passive heals on her unique, and then the fact that she can do the group heals and call assists. And then Fibes, he is classified as a tank, and even though he doesn't have the ability to taunt on his own, under the GK lead, he'll taunt every time he uses his special ability, and he'll call assists, and he constantly will counter. So it gets annoying. You can't focus on him because by the time you start getting him down, his taunt will wear off and GK will more than likely taunt, and it'll steal your focus away. This is a team that is easy to underestimate, so you have to be kind of careful, and you have to have the right kind of characters to go against it. All right, let's move on to squad number 10. Squad number 10 is just a Karth lead team with Canderous and Juhani. Have these because they're left over from other teams. You really don't use them a whole lot. And Karth lead will make your Old Republic gain 30% potency, tenacity, and then crit avoidance. And they'll all heal on dots. And this team puts down a lot of dots. Canderous especially. But Karth, the way it works is Karth will deal damage. In addition to his lead, he does decent damage and he can put down dots on his own. Canderous, he can put down a lot of dots because he has multi-attacks. And so the more he attacks, the more dots are going down. And then Juhani's just there because she can kind of self-heal. She can taunt a little bit. And then she can also cleanse debuffs off the team. So it might be a team that your opponent's not familiar with. Again, you're trying to give them something different that they don't want to go too overpowered on, and they might underestimate it, and it might get you a defensive hold. It's all about reading your opponent and what kind of roster they have. So it's a pretty simple team, just using some Old Republic leftovers. But we'll move on to the 11th team here. I said there was going to be 11 teams. And obviously the 11th team is the one that will stop your opponent cold, depending on who your opponent is, because it is the meta team right now. Darth Revan with Darkside Bastilla and then Darth Malak. If you have that one and they're all modded pretty good, especially if they're faster than your opponent, and he has Darth Revan and Darth Malak, you have a really good chance of winning in a mirror match. So more than likely, you can put this in your N1 zone and block off half the map if your opponent isn't too savvy and know how to counter it. It's very difficult to get through. It is possible to get through, but it's very difficult without burning some really good teams. So those are 11 defensive squads that hopefully will give you a little something different to think about. You notice you didn't see Crew First Order, you didn't see a Bosk Bounty Hunter team. So it's something different that your opponent may not be expecting. And if you have these characters leveled up, it might be a little out of the box thinking, and your opponent might have standard counters and say, well, I usually use my JTR against a Bosk Bounty Hunter team, so I better not use it against this Embo. I'll save it till I get to the back. And then they're not using their best counters against teams that you didn't even put down. Does that make sense? Hopefully this helps you guys. The reason Kid Fisto is in there is he's just my marker for the end of my defensive squads. And I'm going to do another video later on the leftover attack squads that you can make. You can see the little boxes checked that says they had to be unique only, so there won't be any repeats. You'll be able to make 11 attack squads based off of what's left that you didn't use on defense. And then there'll be a couple leftover teams where if things go south, then you have to do 2 or 3 on one squad to get by. So stay tuned. Shout out to my buddy Mikayas. He runs a modding service. He'll go through, make sure you got the right squad compositions and the right mods on the right characters. Give your account a real nice tune-up. I'll put the link to his Discord in my description. Go ahead and check him out. Tell him Indigo sent you. Thanks for watching my video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share your comments down below, and hopefully you'll check out my other videos on my channel. Peace!